Howdy friends, Sam Farkas with Green Hills Guitar Studio here, back with another 5-minute lesson. As always, these lessons are based on real questions I get from my students during my teaching here in Nashville at Green Hills Guitar Studio. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's springtime, there's something in the air, the weather's getting nicer, but I've had a lot of questions about practicing, how to practice, how to stay motivated. So I thought I'd address these, starting with my specific practice routine. My practice is based on quarters, so every 3 months, right? I will identify some goals. I will come up with a methodology to get to those goals, and then I'll monitor or record my progress. And as I roll into the next quarter, I decide if I need to keep working on those things, maybe I need to let some of them go, maybe I'm happy with the progress I've made, maybe not. And at the end of the year, the end of 12 months, 4 quarters, I take a look back and see if I've made the type of progress that is satisfactory. How have I improved, right? So a real life example of this is, maybe I want more language when I solo, when I improvise. Well, I identify a solo or 2 that I want to transcribe every month, and I start working on it. Maybe I want to increase my picking speed and my scale knowledge. Well, I will come up with a scale practice routine, right? And I'll do that every day. Maybe I want to increase my overall repertoire, just tunes I know. You chart 1 tune per week, right? Maybe like a number chart type deal. I use every available tool I can to make my practice more efficient and effective. So I'm not talking about making it easier. I'm not talking about coming up with some type of crutch, but something to make it more efficient. So these types of tools include like Guitar Pro. I'll program in all my my scale exercises at various BPMs that usually ramp up, and I know exactly how long it will take. I can hit spacebar and play along at various tempos, and once I'm in, right? And I just go. There's nothing to think about anymore. I can just get down to practicing. If I'm transcribing something, I'll often use a software like AnyTune or Transcribe that allows me to slow down the recording a bit and really work out the individual parts or individual notes. That's helpful, right? If you're improvising, something like iReal Pro is great because you can change the tempo. You can also remove instruments. So if I'm practicing playing changes over a tune, I'll often take out the piano, right? So it's just bass, drums, and guitar. And sometimes I'll take out the bass, but just have some drums. I love those tools. I think they make my practicing more efficient. Okay, so the other thing that's really important here is that if you are going to practice, as I mentioned, you need to kind of keep track of your progress some way. I like to make recordings personally. Some people like to write down their progress and what they've done each day in a journal, almost like how you would if you're going to the gym or something. Another thing that's really, really critical that I think a lot of people overlook when they're getting started is you need a place in which you can do this thing, in which you can practice, right? And it doesn't have to be something fancy. It doesn't have to be a studio. It doesn't have to be soundproofed. But you do need, like a reasonably comfortable chair. You need a music stand, most likely. Some speakers would probably help if you are planning, or headphones if you're planning on listening to something or playing along. A guitar stand is helpful, right? So these are really basic tools that you can take advantage of for relatively cheap that will make your practice environment more conducive to practicing. Eliminate the hurdle of getting your guitar out of the case, of trying to prop your music up on, I don't know, like your laptop or something like that, right? Get rid of all that stuff. For just a few dollars, you can create a really nice, efficient practice space. Okay, and the other half of this is people have been asking me about is feeling motivated. They haven't felt motivated lately. Again, maybe it's the weather, maybe it's springtime. I don't know. We all struggle with these things. But the idea of feeling motivated, there's a lot to say there, right? Feeling motivated is just that. It's a feeling. Feelings are fickle. They come and go. They change over time. That's part of being human. What we need is something that we can use when we're not feeling motivated. The answer to this is having a strong practice habit, okay? Habits take time to develop. They're hard to make and they're hard to break. There's lots of information out there about creating habits. I'm thinking of books like 4,000 Weeks, Science of Self-Discipline, Atomic Habits. The list goes on and on. They all kind of generally say the same thing. So if you're interested in what it takes to build strong habits, check out some of these resources. The final thing I'll mention is about motivation, feeling motivated to practice. It feels like it's really hard. It feels like it's pain. You're not feeling motivated to do it, right? Again, our habits will help us push through this even when we're not feeling motivated. And there's an element of it where it's like, you just got to suck it up and do it, right? And it's less of a struggle over time. But it might be worthwhile to consider where the motivation, when you have it, where's it coming from? When you are feeling motivated, what is the impetus? What is the catalyst? What is creating this motivation? Is it because you realize you're almost broke and you need to make some money and play some gigs? Is it because you want the approval of the general public? You want them to think you're awesome when you play? Are you motivated because you got a gig coming up and you haven't learned the tunes and you're pretty scared and now you need to really kind of bust your butt to learn the songs? Those are all legitimate forms of motivation, and they can be strong. However, they can be strong motivators. However, I don't think they're super healthy, and I know that they're not sustainable. External motivation is hard to keep up. Internal motivation or intrinsic drive to do something is much more sustainable in the long term. So this means you have to decide, what type of person you want to be, what type of musician you want to be. Do you want to be someone that works hard and struggles and sacrifices some things so you can be a good guitar player? That's internal motivation. Do you want to be the type of person that keeps their word to themselves about their practice schedule? That's an internal motivator. It's internal drive, right? So just something to consider. That's kind of the little deeper psychological level of practice and science of self-discipline. So anyway, I hope that those concepts and the specifics of my practice routine are helpful. And as always, think about what works best for you. After a lot of experimentation, I've discovered what works for me, and it might not be the same for you. But I think the basic concepts should be the same. Identify some goals. Create a methodology to get there. Measure your progress. And after a certain period of time, reassess and make some changes if you need to. And most importantly, keep going even when you don't feel like it. See you later. Happy practicing.